Hey Trekkies, welcome to Trek Freaks, part of the Geek Freaks Network. On this podcast, we analyze and review every episode of Star Trek, starting all the way back with the original series. I am Kevin, and I am joined once again by Jonathan.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Oh man, it's so good to be back. The two of us, the OG Trek Freaks crew. I like it.
Right, it's been a minute, but we're back.
Yeah, it's nice having that little break to be able to listen to you and Frank talk about the original or the first episode of Strange New Worlds from the Lodi Comic-Con recording. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to record it, and I'm having a lot of fun watching Strange New Worlds already. This is a great new series.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Was there a lot of Star Trek themed stuff at that Lodi Comic-Con?
There wasn't a ton. There was a lot of Star Wars because
that makes sense.
Star Wars is really hot right now with the younger generation. I think there was a Kirk lookalike, not a guy dressed up like Kirk. That I was away. I went to the bathroom, I think, and he came around to our table, and my wife had to like stop him and his wife, and she's like, "Wait a minute, are you Captain Kirk?" And his wife like rolls her eyes like, "Oh my god," and he's like, "Yes, I am." And so she said, "Oh, can I take a picture of my husband?" So they take a picture together, and she posted online. Or no, I don't know if she posted it. She found that he had posted it online.
Okay.
And yeah, it's like, oh, that's pretty, I don't know, pretty awesome. And he had a Tribble, a little
nice
little Tribble plush or whatever.
Nice.
And she was like, he had a furry ball. I don't know what that was. I was like, oh gosh. Yeah, but that was pretty fun.
Nice. Well, go into something that's not as fun. What episode are we talking about today?
Oh, yeah. Today we're on the original series, season 2, episode 7, Catspaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
was a rough one.
It should be a fun discussion, but it was a bad episode. It was so bad.
Yeah. And I feel bad. I feel like we say that about so many episodes. I'm like, I thought I was a Star Trek fan. Here I'm bashing on it almost every week, but like, no, there's some really good episodes. There's just some that don't hold up the test of time. And This is one of them. Maybe back then, with the hype and the season that it came out in and stuff like that, it probably landed a little better than it does now with us.
Yeah, I can't wait till we're done with the original series. Not to like get past it or anything, but so we can kind of do a retrospective on our favorite episodes and the ones that didn't hold up. And a lot of people say that the episode Spock's Brain that we haven't got to yet is the worst all-time episode of TOS, but I think this might be that. It's up there.
It's going to be hard to top this one.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about that. At the end of the series, we want to do an episode that's like a recap, and I keep thinking like we could do multiple episodes where, one where we just analyze or just highlight our favorites and, break down the series in different ways or whatever. So I want to put it out to the fans. Let us know through social media what you think you would like us to review or talk about in the final recap episode, or if you think we should have multiple recap episodes, because there's going to be a lot to go over, and we don't want to miss anything. This was a good show.
Yeah, and I have a feeling we're going to be in the same boat with the animated series, because I'm dead set on doing the animated series before getting to Next Generation, because I've never seen it, and I'm very excited to watch that.
Yeah, likewise. I've seen some of the original series here and there, and not consistently, but I haven't seen a single episode of the animated series.
Same here.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. Well, this episode was a Halloween-themed episode, which leads me to the question that I've got for you, Jonathan.
Oh, yeah, shoot.
So, do you typically enjoy holiday-themed episodes of TV shows?
That's tricky, and I think I'm going to have to say no, though when I think of holiday-themed episodes, I typically, to the top of my mind, comes some of my favorite ones. I think I forget the worst ones, but I think of like shows like The Office, where their holiday episodes are fun, and I don't know, they make you laugh, versus episodes like this. I probably would totally forget this. I would probably try to forget this episode just because it was so bad. But I'm pretty sure if you really take the time and look up holiday episodes of shows, you're going to find probably like 80% of them are really bad, because the writers and directors, they're all trying to like stretch a story in, or shoehorn a story into their show that doesn't fit.
Right.
So to try to make it relate is probably not great from a writing standpoint.
So I was thinking the reason I don't like this episode that much is because it is a Halloween themed episode. I don't like holiday themed episodes of TV shows, but I'm going to throw out there that there are two shows that I love the Halloween episodes of. The first one is The Simpsons, because the Treehouse of Terror, Treehouse of Horror, I forget what they call it.
Treehouse of Horrors.
Yeah. They're just like anthology episodes. There's like three different stories, or two or three different stories per episode, and they're always just wacky out there.
Yeah.
Simpsons episodes.
They get you thinking too. Some of them are like a little deeper than a regular Simpsons story.
Yeah.
So I like those.
I'll never forget the line, all work, no play, make Homer something. that line is just stuck in my head for eternity now. But I'm sure when Frank listens to this, he's probably already saying this, but the best Halloween episodes of any show has to go to Brooklyn Nine-Nine. They've got the Halloween heist episodes. They are fantastic, but they're not themed on Halloween. They just take place during the Halloween time. So yeah. It's kind of a cop-out answer, but that's...
I wonder what makes those so good. I mean, yeah, like you're saying, they don't really shoehorn anything in that doesn't fit what the characters would already do. They just have a ritual they do on that time of year, and you see a couple costumes in the background.
Yeah.
But, and sometimes they'll like dance in their costumes or something like that, or they're, everyone's wearing costumes, but other than that, it's not something that's out of their realm. So it fits and it's funny.
Maybe at some point we'll have a sitcom based podcast where we can sit down and talk about shows like The Office and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and not just get them with all these bad episodes of Star Trek, the original series.
Right, that'd be great.
But
though I think it would be interesting to try to like do a broad rewrite of this story if it was not written to be a Halloween episode. If we just want to change the characters and have a similar story that wasn't based on Halloween, and figure out how we could make it better. That would take a little bit of time to figure out, but I think we could make something better.
I am fairly confident that we could.
Yeah.
All right. In lieu of a warp speed recap, I have a very short trans warp recap.
Nice.
The year was 1967. It was the end of October. A Halloween episode of Star Trek was made. Why? I don't know. The episode is very bad. So bad, in fact, that I can't do an actual synopsis for it in the warp speed recap. The key components of the episode are as follows: ghosts, a black cat, a haunted mansion, and Spock not knowing what trick or treat means. Also, crewman Johnson dies. Trans warp recap.
That was trans warp. I like it.
So, a little sneak peek behind the curtain here. I think I told you guys about this last night, John, but man, it took me about 5 hours to get through this episode.
Yeah.
It was like every 2 to 5 minutes I was taking a break and having to walk out and like tell my wife, it's like, well, I've got another 42 minutes left. I got another 36 minutes left. Just kept giving her.
It was a rough episode. And I remember when I was watching it too, I was sitting there in the back of my mind trying to figure out, like, wait, has Kevin been doing the even numbers or the odd numbers? I really hope he's doing the notes on this one and not me. And then we text about it and it's like, okay, yeah, I'll do this one. You do that one. I was like, oh, thank God. I don't think I could do the notes in this episode. It's so bad. It's like, I think if we were just to skip a number, the audience might not notice. We're just skipping to number 8.
Oh, man. Yeah, it was hard to do the notes. I think I might have liked it a little bit better if I wasn't taking, 6 pages of notes on it.
Yeah.
I could have cheated. I should have cheated on this one and just used like Memory Alpha or something to use their website. But no, that's not true to Trek Freaks. We're Trek Freaks here. We do every episode. We take our own notes. So that's what this is. And at the beginning of the episode, the Enterprise is orbiting a planet, and Uhura is unable to contact either Scotty or Sulu, who are planetside. They're late for a check-in, and crewman Jackson says a couple times that he's ready to beam up. So my first thought about this episode was they had Jackson wait until Kirk got to the transporter room. How long would it take for Kirk to get from the bridge to the transporter room? And is it really Starfleet protocol to have Jackson wait until the captain is present to have him beam up?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. They beam people up all the time without the captain standing in the captain without the captain standing in the transporter room. And they didn't say they didn't give any justification for that, right? Like why they need him to be present.
Well, he wasn't really responding properly to Kirk's responses to him, so there was some reason to be suspicious whether or not it was actually Johnson, and he wouldn't, give the whereabouts of Sulu or Scotty. So there was a little hesitation, but also it's the captain. He doesn't need to be present for that. The transporter chief should be able to handle himself in a situation like that. So
yeah,
I thought that was weird. But
yeah, and I wonder if they have any kind of protocol where they can beam somebody in. I mean, I know the transporter technology, especially in later series, it gets much more advanced. But like a protocol, just a simple button you can hit that say, we're going to beam these people in, but they need to go straight to the brig. So beam them not to the transporter pad, but assemble them in the brig.
I
That'd be pretty
wonder
dope.
when the first episode that happens is, because in all the other iterations of Trek, you hear beam them directly to sick bay, beam them directly to the brig, beam them directly to the bridge. There's all kinds of that stuff. I wonder when that technology, like you're saying, became to the point where we were able to do that.
And I'd love to see a series that just follows a certain type of technology, like the transporters, because like we see at Enterprise, where it's a little bit sketchy and they're nervous to use it. So I'd like to see even 50 years prior, where it's just being tested just to transport raw materials, and then after 10 years of doing that, now they can transport complicated mechanisms and electronics, and then 5-10 years later, then they try it on animals for the first time, but it doesn't work. They're turning inside out every time. And so, another like 5-10 years, and finally, okay, the chicken gets there, it's dead, but we're gonna cook it, so it's okay. And then, little bit of progress where, yeah, obviously, if I was a human, I'm not gonna go in that thing. You kidding me? I see animals dying that for the last 20 years or something. But then, eventually, okay, now pad to pad, or pad to like a clean flat surface on a planet, but it can't have a piece of tree branch in the way or something like that. And yeah, incremental progress. That'd be a cool series to follow, because now we see in Discovery they have mobile transporters on them, and they could transport while they're walking. They could do a front flip and then land on a different planet while they're at it. Like, that's so advanced, and they kind of need a cap on it, but that'd be kind of cool to see.
That makes me wonder how in Discovery, I know we're nowhere near that, but you brought it up, so I'm going to talk about it. Those personal transporters that are tied to their comm badges,
mm-hmm.
how do they know where they're transporting to by hitting the button? Like,
you think it.
See, that's
Neuralink.
That has to be the answer, though, unless they've like, all right, at this computer at this time, if I'm requesting a transport, it's to go to this place. Otherwise, I'm going to this place. By default, send me to this place. It's just, there's a lot of, I want to know more. There's not enough information there.
And they could bring up that like holographic display in front of them, where they can kind of through their comm badge, everything, all technology is now funneled through one small triangle. But so maybe they can like preset the coordinates there and then close that display, and then as they walk, whenever they're ready, it's the next loaded coordinates. But
well, shoot, with these things,
we don't see that.
These phones, we're like already, a third of the way there. We have all of our technologies based on one device. Why shouldn't theirs be too, right?
True, that is true. Though I think before we get as advanced as they are, we're going to start having cybernetic implants that do a lot of it. So we literally will just be thinking to our electronics, and vice versa, like getting fed information.
Less Star Trek, more cyberpunk.
Yeah. I'm ready.
Speaking of ready, I'm not ready to talk more about this episode, but I'm 2 sentences in, so let's go.
Let's go.
They wait until Kirk and then McCoy enter the transporter room for him to beam up. It was Jackson. I said Johnson. I said Johnson a couple of times. Is it Jackson or Johnson? It doesn't matter.
It probably doesn't matter. He dies anyways.
Rest in peace, good sir. He immediately falls over. He's dead. And then we hear, this is what sets the tone for the entire episode, is a spooky voice from nowhere. It's a disembodied voice saying, "Captain Kirk, can you hear me? There is a curse on your ship. Leave this place or you will all die."
Well, that was exciting.
Yeah. It's so bad.
It's just, I don't know. I think it's just not necessary. Maybe back in the day, they really did need to push it to try to, get people to watch the show or something like that. Nowadays, we're all such devout fans. We'll watch every episode, even when they suck. But, I to well, just make a regular, really good Star Trek episode and release it on Halloween night if that's the night that they come out, and people will still watch it. It doesn't have to be ghosts and goblins.
I mean, Star Wars did the same thing with their not Halloween, but their holiday special, their Christmas special. They had I think it was a straight to TV special that they did, and that's where Boba Fett was introduced, and it was supposed to kind of lead up to the next movie, but they ended up retconning it quickly due to how much of a failure it was. They could have done something like that with this and just let it be its own thing.
Yep.
But anyway, Kirk, Spock, and Bones, they beam down to the planet. Naturally, the three most important people on the ship have to investigate why this one random guy died and the other two aren't responding. There's not supposed to be any fog on the planet, but lo and behold, there's fog. It's pretty scary stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's magic fog.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be there.
So it could have just been, and obviously they were smoke machines for it was a TV show, but it could have just been the people on the planet playing a practical joke on them with smoke machines. Their scanners wouldn't have picked up any reason for there to be fog. If there, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm really ripping into this, and we're so early on.
All right.
That's unnecessary. Spock is detected. I'm sorry.
Maybe on filming day, their set was just like it was a bad day to be filming because it's a foggy day. So like, you know what? Let's scratch this whole episode we were going to film. We're going to do a Halloween one today because it's a foggy day. That's probably what it was.
There you go.
They can't move the fog, so they're like, well, we're just going to roll with it. We never have an environment that's true that really fits what we're doing. So hey, let's just take advantage of a foggy day.
Look at how blue the skies are. It's bright red, like a couple episodes back.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Spock is detecting life signs nearby, but the ship's scanners were only registering the landing party. So, mysterious life signs off in the distance.
They're not alive.
Yeah, and to go with that, there's some spooky sounds. And then some ghosts appear. I think they're ghosts. That's what I put in my notes, is that they were ghosts. They were never brought up again. So it was obviously an illusion from the people that we meet later on in the episode. I think they were supposed to be ghosts. They speak to Kirk, trying to warn him, just as the disembodied voice back up on the ship tried to do. Do you think this stuff was actually, like, spooky in the 60s?
I don't know. I mean, they had horror movies in the 60s, right? I mean,
I would think so.
I don't know when The Shining came out, but I feel like it was around this time, wasn't it?
Probably.
Probably. Yeah, I don't think this was scary. Though Star Trek, was typically trying to stay family friendly. So I think for, kids watching this, yeah, it could be spooky. But for like regular adults, I mean, I think there was a lot of horror movies already out back then, so I don't think so. But this is like Scooby-Doo kind of spooky.
Yeah.
This feels a lot like they were just kind of ripping off an episode of Scooby-Doo.
That's a really good way of putting it. That puts it into perspective for how bad the episode is, because it's the thing is, the reason I keep saying it's bad, even after you compare it to Scooby-Doo, because Scooby-Doo is not inherently bad, is I think it was trying to give off an actual spooky vibe while coming across as Scooby-Doo spooky.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it Spooky-Doo from now on. I don't think it was trying to be that cartoonishly kind of scary. I think it was trying to actually be scary.
Yeah.
Spock claims that what they saw was not real, and they continue on toward where Spock was detecting life signs coming from. So, I almost missed this because I was just like staring at my notes while I was typing for a second. When the wind picked up, I heard it, but it wasn't until I saw out of the corner of my eye, like the guy's like getting blown all across the screen, like knocking into the mountains and stuff. That was kind of fun to watch. Watching them ham it up to the fake wind that was blowing.
Right. I must have missed that. I don't remember. The guy that was a ghost?
No, this was Kirk, McCoy, and Spock. They were getting blown around.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember that. Yeah. It was very like
it's like when the bridge it's like when they're on the bridge and the ship gets shot. Like,
yeah, like they're practicing their ship shakes, but on a camera that's not moving.
Exactly. Yeah. It was that made me laugh, not in a bad way. It was good. All of a sudden, a haunted looking mansion appears dead ahead of where they were already going. I guess the fog cleared enough for them to see it, or it wasn't there and then it appeared there. I imagine that it was already there because that's where Sulu and Scotty were. And that's where the life signs that Spock was reading are coming from. My question at that time was, why can the tricorder pick up readings that the ship's sensors can't? And as I was typing that question, McCoy actually brought up the same thing.
Yeah. Did they have an answer for it? Because they could have easily given some technobabble, like, oh, there's some subspace interference or whatever, but...
No, they shrugged it off.
Yeah, I don't think they gave any... Like, even if you were to say, like, if we were to just make a umbrella comparison and say, like, witchcraft magic is based in, negatively charged ions or something, whatever
right.
technobabble they want to use, and then they're like, okay, yeah, there was this ion storm or this ion bubble or whatever, and now that we're inside it, we can get readings, but from outside, the ship was blind. That'd be cool. Just give us just a little bit. We don't need a lot.
Could have even been, there's a force field blocking it, but if the front door's open, you can scan it while you're outside, but if you're above the planet, you can't get through something stupid. I don't know.
Yeah. Line of sight.
As they enter the haunted mansion, there's a black cat, and it goes freaking ballistic. Like,
I wish I was there on filming day to watch how many shots did they have to take of this cat. They reused a lot of them over and over again. But it would be fun. Like, who's over there pulling its tail? Like, they got to get the screaming cat scene for all the black cat Halloween stuff. And I mean, I'm sure there's no animal activists there on set because they've got to be yanking on its tail or something to be able to get it to freak out. But that was just kind of funny. I just imagine what a hard time the director and the film crew was having to film this cat be crazy. Yeah,
and it wasn't even just watching the cat; it was the sounds. Like, if Frank's going to use any sounds from this episode, this is the sound that your headphone users be warned. But yeah, that cat went ballistic.
Yeah.
Where am I at? There we go. Kirk says that if a man hadn't already died, he would assume someone was playing an elaborate trick or treat on them. That's when Spock he says he doesn't know what a trick or treat is. And Kirk's like, well, we'll show you sometime.
Well, so I don't think any of them know what a trick-or-treat is, because to us, trick-or-treating is knocking on the door and asking for candy.
Right. I think to them, trick-or-treat is more on the trick, and for us, it's more on the treat. But
right, yeah. They're talking about just the pranks that, the teenage kids pull on Halloween night, I guess. Yeah.
Back on the ship, on the Enterprise, Chekhov says that he lost the life signs for the second away team. Which
good job,
is
bud.
What's that?
I said, good job, bud.
Right, yeah.
We already lost one away team. Now you lost the second one. What's going on?
Yeah, and this one just happens, like I said before, happens to have the three most important people on the ship. So, yeah.
Well, and they didn't do anything to avoid that. The first away party went out there, air landing party. The second one followed them without a plan of, hey, this is what we're going to do different to make sure we don't lose signal. Like, bring a booster or whatever. And see, I remember in Voyager they have transporter enhancers or whatever. Those little tripods they put down. Bring something like that will boost your life sign signals or something so that you guys can still be detected.
I think worst case scenario, you bring down 6 people, have 3 people wait outside at the landing or at the beam-in coordinates, and then have the other 3 people go investigate. And don't break those squads of 3 up. Just have 2 different squads of 3 and don't let any of those 3 separate from each other.
Yeah, or get a really long rope.
Yeah, there you go. And tie tin cans to the end of them or something in case the comms break. The black cat seems to be leading them somewhere. And at this point, I'm half expecting the cat to transform into some spooky, sexy alien that hits on Kirk. I didn't know at the time how right I was going to be, but I had an inkling that was going to be the case.
Yeah, because you could tell the cat's it's intelligent because it's telling or leading the guy or directing whatever the guy there and what to do.
Yeah,
and so he's obeying her. So yeah, that was pretty wise premonition.
The floor, which looked like it was 12 inches thick of concrete, just suddenly breaks underneath them as they're following the cat, and they fall through to another room and are knocked out. And when they wake up, they're chained to a dungeon wall, straight up Aladdin style. That was, Aladdin didn't exist in that form back then. But still, that's what I thought of at first was Aladdin being, yeah.
And they did a pretty good job with these sets, though. I mean, for being especially a single episode, a Halloween special, a pretty roughly written episode at that, to have like their, I don't know, stagecraft guys, I guess, or set design did a pretty darn good job. I do like the effect of seeing the floor fall in.
Yeah,
it wasn't super cheesy. They could have just cut away and then like be looking up through a hole or something like that. But no, you see the floor crumble and stuff. And yeah, they did a pretty good job with that.
I'm really wondering what other shows were going on that they were shooting around that same time, because I think that those sets had to have been reused from another show or a movie or something. Because
that's a good point.
With the kind of budget that Star Trek was operating under, I doubt they could come up with something that looked that decent that quickly. But you never know.
That's a good point. It probably was reused from some other like medieval castle scene or something like that, and they just make it a little more spooky.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And then the most comedic moment of the show, probably the entire show, I would say, happened. At least one of the funniest moments for me was Kirk tries to get McCoy's attention as they're hanging up in the shackles, and he says "Bones," and right when he does, the camera pans over and there's a skeleton, Bones hanging from
next to him.
Other shackles, and he corrects himself and says, "Doc." It was just perfect. That was like the perfect comedic timing. It was
like,
so good.
Clarify. Oh wait, yeah, I'm not talking to the skeleton. I'm talking to my living doctor. Like, you don't need to clarify. But yeah, obviously they call him Bones all the time. They got to play with that on a Halloween episode.
I thought that was really funny. Clever. I should have expected that. If I expected the cat to turn into a sexy woman, I should have assumed that they were going to have a play on words with Bones. But
yeah. And it was funny. Like, for as rough as this episode is, the story's pretty bad, but they throw in a couple funny scenes that lighten it up.
And the bad thing about how bad the episode's story was is that it could have gone somewhere good, because right here, the three guys are talking about how the planet that they're on may have evolved from ghost stories or other Earth-grown fears, and I think there's something there that you could build a story off of.
Yeah.
But the way they went with it, they did not go that direction.
Yeah, it could have. It could have been telepaths. Some species or whatever had taken from Earth and created this, and or this was taken to Earth and created their stories there. This is a different species of people or what. Yeah, there's 1,000 ways they could have done it, but this was probably the worst of the options.
Honestly, they should have brought Trelane back for this episode, because that was kind of his whole premise, is that he was like several hundred years behind in spying on Earth. So that's why he had that castle that was, decorated as if it was a 16th century castle, fortress or whatever, having like the almost mirror universe version of Trelane or something. I think that would have been super cool. Like, because they bring back Mud next week, the following week. Mm-hmm. Why not do the same thing with Trelane this time? I thought it would have been great.
That would have been perfect. I think we had the Who Mourns for Adonis was one where it was like the gods came to Earth and taught the people, and then they left. So they could have done something like this, where there was this entire planet civilization that was thriving, that was of these witch people that had all these traditions and stuff like that. They traveled to Earth, but they don't go in spaceships. They went through some kind of mystic portal kind of thing or whatever, and taught them, medicine through, making stuff in a cauldron and different magic to heal and fight and all these different, witch stories that we hear are Halloween stories. And then they left, and then all that stuff turned into, bad, negative things that are shunned, and people, then they had the hanging of witches and stuff like that. So, it all got kind of twisted to be a bad thing. But when they brought it, it was all very good practices. It was, to make the people live better and stuff like that. That would have been cool to see that perspective of. And then when you show that change of perspective, the lights come up a little bit in the setting, and then you really look around, and maybe there's spider webs, but it's actually not as dark of a place when you're looking at it from the perspective of these people aren't evil and these aren't actually ghosts, or maybe these are spirits that have passed, but we can communicate with our, past relatives who've already moved on to the next realm and things like that, where it's like, yeah, these are actually good peoples, and these stories that we hear leave a bad taste in your mouth because the perspective of the people that are telling them, but it's actually from this really well developed culture that we don't understand?
You kind of just explained the last 2 seasons of Stargate Atlantis. Stargate SG-1. Like,
Mm.
after they got rid of the primary enemy of the show, they had a second enemy for the last 2 seasons, and it was a lot of what you just described. I know I bring up that show a lot, but there's a lot of
Nice.
parallels. I think a lot of Stargate was based off of Star Trek, and
I'm pretty
seemingly
sure.
off of your headcanon.
Yeah, you and me should just be sci-fi writers. Once we get through all this recap, we just start writing and pitching our own stuff in every episode.
Yes, I agree, 100%. And it'd just be a mix and match of everything we like in every single sci-fi series, and no one would be wiser.
Yeah, and every episode, as soon as we're done, we just send it off to like Paramount executives and stuff, and see who wants to buy one from us.
Yep. I like it. Anyway, back to the episode. Scotty and Sulu approach, but they seem a little bit different. Scotty is pointing a phaser, and he won't put it down. McCoy says Scotty and Sulu appear to be drugged. Sulu unlocks the shackles that are holding Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. He frees all three of them. But you can tell that there's something wrong with them. They're not responding to any like verbal communication. They're just like not blinking, dead face, dead eyes.
They're like drones, pretty much.
Yeah. And Sulu and Scotty are leading Bones, Kirk, and McCoy somewhere. They're not sure of where that is. They get like up a couple of steps or something, and they turn around to start, tackling their own guys that are seemingly drugged. And we hear somebody yell, "Stop!" And they're transported to another room. That kind of caught me off guard. I thought that was cool that they didn't have any weird, shitty transporter effects or anything. They just like it instantly flashed to a different room. Kind of left a little of the I almost said mystery, the mystery alive in that. What did you think of that transition?
Yeah, the same thing. It reminded me of like when they're on the holodeck and that you can change everything instantly. So it's like, okay, is this real?
Right.
I mean, is this magic? It was, I don't know. It does keep it interesting, at least when you think you know everything that's going on, and then it's like, oh wait, what happened there? That was kind of cool.
So I didn't quite know what was going on, but Kirk immediately knew that everything that's going on were illusions because he compliments the guy. And I don't even get the guy's name until I think the very, very end of the episode. They call him like Cobol or Cobble or something. I didn't even look up what his name is because I couldn't bother. I don't care.
Right. Too invested in the episode already anyways.
Exactly. Yeah, so Kirk compliments him on his ability to create illusions, but I'm not convinced at that time that that's what that actually was. I thought there was something else going on. It turns out that there wasn't anything else going on, and everything was exactly as Kirk thought it was once again.
Yeah.
We see the black cat, and it's sitting next to the man. And at that point, I still haven't ruled out that it's a werecat. This is what I have in my notes.
Yeah.
I just scrolled way too far.
And so the cat we're seeing sit next to him, when he's speaking to them, when he's making like decisions, he's always like directing it to the cat. Like we can kind of see he's kind of asking the cat permission or whatever to make these decisions. So clearly the cat is intelligent, and I think we kind of assume that they're communicating like telepathically, or maybe the way the cat moves or purrs or whatever. But he's pretty much asking the cat if it's okay to do these different things, and she has to approve it or not. Which is why we probably assume early on like either this is an intelligent cat, it's possessed by a person or a ghost or something like that, or it can change forms into an actual person.
Spock brings up a much more, I think it would have been a fun interpretation of what was going on, saying that he starts talking about wizards and their familiars, which I think would have been a lot more fun if that's the route that this episode took, rather than like a werecat lady. But
yeah,
basically just the familiar is like an animal that the wizard can interact with that nobody else can understand, and they're bound together. Not so much the case of these two. I've got some acid reflux. I'm sorry. The man makes a feast appear and invites the guys to a meal. they refuse to eat, so he changes all the food into quote unquote real gems like diamonds, amethyst, rubies, sapphires, um, whatever it was. He's trying to bribe them into leaving. Is that right? That doesn't.
Yeah, he was trying to tell them like, here, take all this. You don't, you don't have to stick around. Like, go back to your ship. And they're like, well, we have no use to this, and we've lost, crewmen, so we need to find either where he is or what happened to him.
Right.
And it's funny because they're like, oh wow, these, the wizard thinks, oh wow, these gems are super valuable, and the guys do enjoy looking at them, but they're like, yeah, we have technology on our ship that can make tons of these. We have no use for them. They're no value to us. So through that, the guy realizes like, okay, I can't, bribe you with food or with fortune, so I can't manipulate you the way that I typically would.
He immediately follows that up with, oh, you've passed the test. And I'm calling his bluff on that. I think he's just making shit up as he goes. I don't think he knows what he's doing. And I think we find out later that he's more controlled by the lady that we meet right now, actually. The cat walks around a corner and a woman pops back into the room. And the necklace she's wearing is the same as the pendant hanging from the collar on the cat. So it's obvious that they're the same person, cat thing.
Yeah, I think that was a missed opportunity where cat walks out and woman walks in. It's been done a million different ways, and I get they didn't have CGI back then, but I'm pretty sure they could have found a better way to do the transition that was more visible. Like if they did a simple thing would be a shadow where the cat goes behind a box or whatever, and then the shadow turns into a woman, and then she walks out from the other side. That would be kind of cool, and it's an easy thing for them to generate, but relatively easy. I mean, I'm no film expert, but I imagine it's easier than CGI.
I thought that that's what they were going to do later on in the episode when they had all this shadow stuff going on. I thought we were going to see the shadow transform, but that never really happened.
I think that was for perspective, so they can have a little 8-inch cat and make it look like it's 12 feet tall or something.
Yeah, but they definitely could have done two birds with one stone on that. I think.
Yeah. I blame the director.
Joseph Pevney, I think, was the director on this one. He's been the director on many episodes thus far.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's one thing I don't pay close attention to, and I always tell myself when I'm doing notes, is like, I need to go back and see what else this guy directed, because I'm pretty sure we'll see correlations between some of our favorite episodes. That'll be a good thing to do, at least on our series recap at the end.
Well, the most recent episode before this that I took notes on was The Apple, and it was directed by the same guy. So I think this guy's just writing or directing all the cursed episodes, like all the episodes that are bad.
Yeah, nice.
Kirk takes the phaser from Scotty and hands it to Spock and starts demanding answers about what's going on. But the Catwoman, who we later learn her name is Sylvia, she brings out this like little toy model of the Enterprise on a like a string necklace looking thing. Yeah, chain. Thank you.
Looks like an ornament or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. It was a Christmas tree ornament.
Yeah.
She starts using some sort of I compared it to voodoo magic. Like it represented the actual Enterprise.
What are those dolls called where you put needles in them and the person feels the pain?
I've always heard voodoo.
Oh yeah, voodoo doll. Yeah. That's okay. You got the word right.
Gotcha.
I thought they had a special name. No,
they might. I don't know. And she starts swinging it above a candle and tells Kirk to contact the ship, and everybody's sweating, saying I think Chekhov says it raised like 60 degrees in a matter of minutes or something. Obviously the voodoo magic is working. So Kirk stands down, says that she's won. She just laughs it off, says, "Oh, your ship is safe." And so Kirk starts to ask about how the science of what. No, I am sorry. I got a little ahead of myself. The guy, I don't remember his name, don't care, starts to ask Kirk about their science and their level of technology and how it starts to how it works versus their stuff.
You've seen some of our tricks. We want to see some of your tricks, kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And Kirk says that their science is done with tools. And he tries to correlate it with the science of these two, and he pronounces it telekinesis, I think. Talk about
yeah,
telekinesis.
telekinesis.
Yeah.
Telekinesis. I think that was just an actor's flaw in reading his script, because I don't think anybody pronounces it that way that I know of.
Yeah, I don't know if telekinesis was like a thing that was ever brought up in media back then, though. It might not have been such a commonplace thing in TV or movies, so can't really blame Shatner for not knowing how to pronounce it. So as the man is trying to explain a little bit to Kirk about how their stuff works, Sylvia cuts him off completely. The man puts the Enterprise model in a solid brick. It looks like an ice brick, but I think it was just supposed to be glass or plastic or something, and says that there's now an impenetrable force field around the Enterprise, which turns out that was the case. Well, mostly impenetrable. He think doesn't matter. After refusing to give the people what they want, the away team is sent to their cell, and McCoy is to be left behind to be interrogated. It looks like by Sylvia. I don't know. Was it apparent what they were looking for at this point? What Sylvia and the guy were looking for, other than an explanation of their technology?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think they're just trying to understand, who they are, why they're there, and if they're really a threat or not. Like, they already killed one of their guys, presumably. But I think they're trying to assess them, whether or not they can, keep them around and learn from them, study them, take some of their technology, or if they need to just kill them now, kind of thing. Because we find out later, like, these people aren't as powerful as we think they are. They're just like you pointed out, they're good with illusions. So it's all just kind of like a mind game. So I think they're just trying to assess the risks.
Gotcha. Back on the ship, the guy in charge, it's Mr. DeSalle, I think was his name, says that the force field is very real, and if it's real, it can be affected, which I thought was a kind of a fun. I don't know if it came before the phrase "if it bleeds, we can kill it," or if it came after, but I immediately thought of that, and if it's real, it can be affected. Is definitely my new Star Trek version of "if it bleeds, we can kill it." I love it.
So, question for you: at this point, based on what we see in their magic and what we know comes later on, do you think the ship is really in a force field, or are they seeing a force field that's not really there?
I thought that it was actually there, just based on the thing with the candle earlier. That was
Another question: was the temperature actually rising, or did they just think they were hot?
Yeah, I mean, at some point it doesn't matter, but
true. Yeah, your brain boils from thinking it's hot or being hot, and you'll still die.
I think for the simplicity of the episode, it was supposed to have all been real.
Okay,
but I don't know.
I think their magic, what we see looking like witchcraft and stuff like that, isn't actually magic at all. It is purely perspective illusions that they're casting on everybody. So they think they see what they see, and so they react based on it. But I don't think these creatures are actually capable of changing matter around them like we're seeing.
Well, they haven't brought this up yet, but they use a source of power called the transmuter, which isn't really the source of their power, but usually transmutation is turning something into something else.
Yeah, like shapeshifting.
Yeah. So I kind of took it all at face value, at least. There's probably a lot more to think of along the lines of what you're saying. It would definitely make it a much more interesting story. But I think it was just so boring that I didn't even care to hypothesize, honestly.
Yeah, and there's it might be the difference between the holodeck and replicator technology, where one is just light beams and one is matter being created and destroyed hand in hand.
That's a good point.
So yeah, maybe their transmuter is actually creating these things that they're seeing.
I wonder if it's like killing something else to create something, though. Like if it's taking other matter and transmuting it into something else.
That'd be cool to see.
I'd love to see some lore on that, but you'll never get it unless Lower Decks does something.
There's probably books. I know there's already books out there with a lot of information that I'll probably never get to read in my life.
But it's not canon.
Yeah. But I want to decide what goes into canon or not, at least in my brain. I'll read through all the books, and I'll have a bookshelf. One side that is just bogus stuff that some Star Trek fan wrote. The other side that was a smart Star Trek fan. He's accepted into my bookshelf of canon.
Nice. Oh, that'd be
Yeah.
great. Back in the dungeon, Spock and Kirk are discussing the situation. Spock says that some of the stuff they've experienced must be somewhat familiar to Kirk, and he posits that as the people there tried to reach the minds of the away team, they missed and were only able to reach the subconscious. So basically, Spock is saying that everything that's around them isn't real, and that it's being pulled from their secret, deepest, darkest fears in the back of their brain. And that's the only part of the brain that these people are able to access without verbally getting that information from them.
Yeah. So what we understand from that is that this was supposed to be a grand illusion to look like their home or something pleasing or comfortable to them. Their regular expected settings, and so they could be, I guess, observed or trapped or something like that. But they accessed the wrong part of their brain and got their deepest, darkest fears or things that things they're afraid of, which goes back to Halloween, stories and spooky ghosts and stuff like that. So that makes me wonder, okay, what do they want to do if they were able to pull it off and have like a species 8472 on Voyager has that simulation of Starfleet Academy. If they were able to pull something off like that, what was their long-term goal? Are they trying to destroy the ship or kill the crew or learn from them, or what are they really after? But I don't think we actually get any kind of answer to what they were trying to get out of all this by the end.
And given everything that they've gotten wrong so far about the people from Earth, they determine that these people, much like species 8472, are in fact super alien. Like, I think Kirk says totally alien. Like they're like even from another galaxy alien.
Non-humanoid aliens.
Yeah. McCoy returns holding a phaser with the same blank stare as Scotty and Sulu. And I put in my notes, we've seen this before, because I thought that McCoy was faking it. I guess I thought a little too low of this episode, which I didn't think that was possible, but McCoy was not faking it. A spoiler alert right there. McCoy wasn't faking it. He was totally indoctrinated in the same way that Sulu and Scotty were. So now it's just Kirk and Spock left with their own brains intact. I shouldn't talk about Spock and brain in the same sentence. I'm just going to think of that shitty episode coming up next season.
Well, did it say how they were able to indoctrinate these people and make them like drones? I don't remember seeing anything like that.
I don't know. It might have been inferred. I think the interrogation process, Sylvia says, can be excruciating and leaves them in that state. I think she kind of said, she may have even said it flat out, but I stopped paying attention at a certain point.
Right. This is the hard one to ride along with.
Right.
For sure.
But even if she didn't say it, that's how I took it, was that the interrogation broke their brain, essentially.
Yeah.
Before Kirk arrives for interrogation, the man and woman are arguing. Sylvia and the wizard dude are arguing. He calls her a traitor. She calls him a fool. She likes being in human form, and he says that they have a duty to the old ones. Which, if you talk about the old ones in a horror sense, you're usually talking about some like H.P. Lovecraft shit, which nothing to do with this episode whatsoever, let me tell you, because that would have made it even the slightest bit more interesting.
Right.
Sylvia starts talking about how much she's enjoying all these new sensations, being a humanoid or a human or whatever kind of in between she is right now. And this is when I note that the acting is very B-movie. Like, it's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah. This is, I mean, I don't blame them, because this was kind of a bad script that they didn't spend all their money on bringing in some great, known actors or, whatever. But yeah, they could have tried a little bit
done
more.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they just should not make holiday specific episodes. This is just obviously, I don't know. It's just not good. They're trying to shoehorn a story in that doesn't fit and bringing in, cheap actors. The only thing that I was impressed with so far is the set. They did a good job with the set.
Yeah, I agree. Sylvia's left alone to chat with Kirk. She tells Kirk that she likes the new sensations, but she craves more. She wants to know about power. So naturally he touches her because, it's Star Trek, he's Kirk. That's what gonna happen. She says she would have a hard time disposing of Kirk. She doesn't want to hurt him. She wants to join minds with him, which I don't know what joining minds would entail, if it would completely eliminate Kirk and she would just be taking over Kirk. So I don't know. Because at first I was thinking like a mind meld type thing to learn more about him. But the way she was talking, it sounds like she wanted to absorb him.
Yeah, like a permanent connection between the two.
Yeah. Or like it would just they would become one, essentially. That's how I took it. So
maybe that's something normal to that alien species, or like when they get married or whatever, they just become one, and now it's just one was absorbed by the other. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I thought the same thing as you. Like, they must just be talking about a mind meld, and she wants to, get jiggy with Kirk in his brain.
Well, but he wants to get jiggy with her a little more physically, because at that point he starts kissing and rubbing her because, Kirk gun Kirk. So my earlier thoughts were correct, by the way, about the werecat that was going to hit on Kirk. That totally happened, or that was going to seduce Kirk. That definitely happened. She changes her appearance a lot, asking Kirk which of the appearances that he prefers. And my eyes have never rolled back further in my head thinking about how dumb and misogynistic and just overall stupid this shit is. But
as forward thinking as Star Trek usually is, this kind of demonstrates that this is written by men, and more so written mostly for men.
Yeah.
Because the concept that, I'm such an amazing captain, and every woman I try to seduce is just going to fall madly in love with me, and that's how I get out of trouble, is I just seduce the women and take advantage of them, and then I'm on my ship and, home before dinner. And then, the woman who has all the power in this situation, she wants to use her power to please him any way she can. It's like, oh, come on, guys. It's dated, but we know better now in our writing. But back then, I don't know. They were trying. At least they were trying.
I think they were trying. I hope.
Yeah. At least it's a female lead role in this episode.
Yeah, for sure. That doesn't happen very often in Star Trek, the original Star Trek. In Kirk's defense as a character, he was just doing all that to try to get information out of her, which he does, because she immediately slips up and starts talking about the transmuter and how that's the source of their power on the planet. And she quickly figures out, because she's not dumb, that Kirk is trying to use her. I think she probed his mind for a second and saw that he was just taking advantage of the situation to get information out of her. So she's super pissed and threatens to kill him, the crew, and then everyone on Earth, because fuck us, I guess. Right. One guy pisses you off, they're all dead.
Yeah.
Back on the Enterprise, DeSalle's plan to break through the force field is starting to work. I didn't even know what his plan was, but it had something to do with diverting all the power to the impulse engines and shooting out something.
Pushing their way out.
It's something like that, or burning a hole in the force field. Either way, it started to work, whatever the plan was. The wizard guy frees Kirk and Spock from their dungeon, and he even releases the Enterprise from the force field, which I thought was kind of throwaway, because he says they would have gotten free themselves anyway. But I think he's trying to help them escape so they can get out and make a quick run for it. But I think it would have been a little bit more heroic if the Enterprise did just break free instead of start to break free and then he broke it out the rest of the way.
Yeah, but I think he wants to have a redemption arc too. So to show that, his, girlfriend or whatever was evil, but he's trying to do the right thing and let them be free.
I got you. That makes sense. And he says that he can no longer control either Scotty or Sulu or Sylvia, which I guess he was controlling her before. I don't know.
I don't think so. As much as most men think they control their wives, but they really...
yeah, shit, no.
Right.
Yeah, he was definitely the puppet.
House, as long as the wife lets me.
Exactly, yeah.
Whenever she's out of town. That's about it.
So Kirk, Spock, and Mr. Wizard are trying to silently hunt for Sylvia. I don't know why they were trying to be so silent while hunting for Sylvia. They were trying to find her. I thought they
Mhm.
were trying to escape, but it sounded like
Yeah.
they were actually looking for her. And then you hear the terrible cat noises up ahead in a distance.
Yeah. Oh
And
my
it was
god.
so much. It was so much. They kept doing it. And it cut to commercial break during this, and then I think when it came back, it started again. It's like, just stop. I understand what you're trying to do, show. Just stop it.
And I don't get what they think they're gonna do when they find her because she's more powerful than they are, right? They've already kind of
Yeah.
shown that, so they need to try to flee, get on the ship, and get the hell out of there.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know what the plan was, but they had to find her because they had to show off the cat being big.
Yeah,
And
big cat.
by that, I actually have in my notes, the camera shows a large shadow of a cat that is quite obviously just zoomed in to look bigger, but the men back away in fear as if the cat is actually huge. So
Right.
it not only was it like a light trick to make the shadow bigger, but you could tell like the film quality was zoomed in too to make it look even bigger. Like the cat's shadow took up the entirety of the screen to make it look like
Yeah.
it was twice the size of the dudes there.
I mean, it's better than I don't know. I'm sure they could have done it worse. Like we were saying earlier, walking off set and walking back on set just to change forms. But they could have just had like the sound of a screaming cat, and we had to assume that it was big because it was deeper voice than a regular cat or something like that.
Right, and they even have Spock say that the cat is the most terrifying creature in Earth history, talking about like the saber-toothed tiger all the way back in prehistoric times. They could have just had her transform into a freaking saber-toothed tiger and like have a roar in the background instead
Yeah.
of having just a little house cat. That's what I
You
didn't
know
get.
how it could have been worse? Do you remember the Galileo 7? It was like episode 6 or something like that in season 1.
Vaguely.
Galileo 7 or Galileo 8, something like that.
I think it was Galileo 7.
Okay, yeah. They get attacked by these giant creatures that are native to that planet.
Right.
They throw harpoons and they drop a giant shield and all that stuff. When we do finally see one of them attacking somebody, it's like a guy that just threw a bear pelt rug over his shoulders and he's like, "Rrr." You just see his back, and then
I
Got a
don't
dog
know
home
if
now.
your
Sorry.
internet's dying or if it's
you
my
just
internet.
see this giant guy's back, and he like leans over. I think it was Spock or whoever he was attacking, and it was just like so
Ah,
cheesy, so
shit.
terrible. So they could have done something like that, and well, I froze. You froze. I froze. We both froze. All of a sudden, I got a whole bunch of talking at once.
I have no idea if are you still there?
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
You can hear me?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Okay. It like froze, and then all of a sudden I heard all at once.
You were explaining the Galileo 7, and then it did
Oh,
sound
okay.
like I'm glad I'm recording the video because it's getting my perspective of that whole thing. It was great.
Nice. Yeah. So I had a dog barking at one point or another. So hopefully Frank can cut around all that. That's I don't know, but it's not. It was only for a second. So yeah, Galileo 7. We got the giant bear pelt guy who just kind of like hunches over and
Oh yeah.
kills him that way. So we could have seen something like that. I'm glad they did the shadow effects instead of having, the Macy's Day Parade version of a cat that, like chases them down the halls or something like that. And it's obviously super duper fake. Like, a shadow wasn't done as good as they probably could have done back then with shadow technology if they spent a little bit more time and money. But it was better than other options, I'm sure. So I'm not going to complain too much on it.
Yeah, we're near the end of the episode anyway, so there's not a whole lot left I want to like totally rag on. The shadow thing
Yeah.
wasn't the worst part of the episode, so I have a little bit of suspension of disbelief just because it's Star Trek, it's sci-fi, it was the 60s. It's okay. Spock escapes through the hole in the ceiling, which was the hole that they fell through from the floor above earlier. That's when I really noticed how thick that concrete was for it to suddenly fall down with them on top. That's insane. That doesn't matter. The other man gets stuck under the wizard dude gets stuck under the door after Sylvia, as the large cat, knocks it down on him. I thought that whole exchange was pretty funny. I don't know why Sylvia didn't just there were a lot of different avenues they could have taken
Yeah.
during this whole
I mean,
chase.
the giant cat, was it like screaming through the window or something like you could see it in the background?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was all, green screen window stuff and everything. But it was pretty cheesy. I don't know. Come on, guys. We can do without the cat. Like, I would have loved to see just a witch as the villain instead of a giant cat, and she's throwing lightning bolts or something like that. Like, I don't know. Or just scrap the whole concept of a Halloween episode. That'd be cool too.
Yeah, I would have been all right with that, but
Yeah.
at least with the guy being knocked down, Kirk tried to free him from under the door, but couldn't get him out. So instead, he does the next best thing and takes his wand, which is the transmuter.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny. Oh, you're screwed. Sorry, I'm gonna take your only defense. Cool, it's mine now.
Bye.
And he goes up through the hole that Spock escaped through. And when they get up there, they get into a fight with Bones, Scotty, and Sulu, who are all still indoctrinated by Sylvia. But Kirk and Spock easily get the upper hand, which I thought was. I mean, Spock makes sense. Kirk also makes sense, but you'd think that these other guys, especially Sulu, and they did make a big deal of Sulu coming at Kirk like for a little one-on-one confrontation. I wish that fight would have lasted a little bit longer, just because Sulu was obviously, not only was George Takei obviously into it as an actor, but we've seen him with his fencing abilities. He's obviously got some hand-to-hand combat. Plus, I think he's security trained as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
At least in the Mirror Universe, he's like the chief of security or something. I don't know. But now that the crew is conveniently all together, this would be a good time for their transporters and communicators to randomly start working. I thought so little of this episode that I thought all their stuff was going to just start magically working when they all got together, just to tie it all up in a nice little bow. They didn't.
That would have been a good time for, like, if they were continuing to try to break through that force field from the Enterprise themselves. That would have been a time. That would have been a good time for it to work.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Then they beam up.
As Sylvia approaches, Kirk grabs the transmuter. As Sylvia transforms back into her woman form, and she teleports herself and Kirk back to the dining hall / interrogation room that about a third of the episode took place in already. She explains that the transmuter isn't the source of their power; it's rather a relay through which the power is amplified. Which
did she lie before, or is she lying now? That's the question.
Yeah, I don't. I think
did they say earlier is the source of their power?
Yeah, I think she said that just because it was easier to explain it that way. But she was also maybe she was also trying to lie and hide some of the capabilities of the mind's power that they have. Like, they've got a lot of power just in their brain through telekinesis, which Kirk already knew. He figured that one out pretty quickly. Sylvia attempts to kill. Oops. Sylvia attempts to talk Kirk into staying with her. He says no, so she pulls a phaser on him. Instead of handing her the transmuter, he bashes it on the table, and the entire away team is suddenly outside, and everything that they were seeing up to this point has disappeared. All it took was just... Now I got a dog barking in the background.
I can't even hear yours.
Okay, that's good. I think
But
Discord
maybe your mic can. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, he just bashes it against the door, and then it wasn't
the table, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
I
actually have the guy's name. It was Korob. I have it on the second to last bit of notes I have. I think it was like Korob or Kerob or something.
They might have mentioned it at the very beginning, but I didn't remember hearing it either. Even now at the end, I didn't remember hearing it. So
I know
it's not just you.
I know they said his name several times before I had it in my notes, but Kirk said it before I ever heard it, which I hate it when TV shows do that, because obviously the actor knows the character's name before the audience does. But I think that the audience should know the name the same time the character does if it's a new character. Kirk shouldn't randomly know that his name is Korob earlier in the episode, but I don't know. Probably missed something.
Should be introduced at some point.
Yeah. Korob and Sylvia are actually these little bird plant hybrid things that are like maybe 3 or 4 inches tall. We see them walking around. And Spock says that he wants to try to figure out more about them, but they immediately die and then start smoking. And then
Well, if you're gonna smoke, you're gonna die. It's just inevitable.
smoking kills, man.
Yeah.
But then the away team beams up, and the episode's just over.
Right? They didn't even bring the corpses back to study, or I don't know, figure out what the heck's up with that planet. They still haven't figured out what's up with their crewman. Now the illusion's gone. They can go find his body somewhere there, right?
Oh, he was on the ship, wasn't he?
Oh, I don't know. Did
He beamed up
beam back with him? Oh, okay.
The original, the one that died, Jackson, whatever his name is.
Yeah. Johnson Jackson.
He died after I don't know if it was before or after, but he beamed up to the ship and fell over dead at the very beginning of the episode.
Nice.
So
if you remember Futurama, there's an episode where there's two guys running against each other, and for politicians, Johnson Jackson versus Jackson Johnson.
Oh, that's
like that.
right. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Jack Johnson versus John Jackson.
Yeah, there it is.
That's good stuff.
Well,
yeah,
that was an episode of Star Trek.
The little tiny aliens at the very end, they reminded me of a character from the Muppets. I can't remember his name though. But he had like the frilly little hair, and I don't know, he's a weird little Muppet character. Anyways, that's what I thought of when I saw them, but I can't remember his name, so that's pointless information I shouldn't share.
There are a lot of inconsistencies with the appearance of these characters at the end versus and like their ability to be on that planet with the illusions versus the ability or the lack of ability later. Like, how did they get on that planet to begin with? Did they already look like humans before they got to the planet, so they were able to hold that giant wand as the transmuter to be able to make all that stuff for them to live inside so they didn't die in the planet's atmosphere? I mean, there's just so much that...
They transmute the transmuter? When they came, was it just a tiny orb, and then when they create their human bodies, they turn it into...
It would have been the necklace or something.
There you go, yeah.
If you
turn it into a wand.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't care enough to even try to do the headcanon on this.
Speculate, yeah.
Yeah. It was rough. Bad. I don't think Trek has done any other holiday-themed episodes after this. And if they haven't, I don't blame them, because this was very bad.
Well, isn't there an animated episode that's like a Halloween or a Christmas episode?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I want to say there is. I want to say I've seen like snapshots of it, but not... Obviously, I haven't watched the episode, but we'll see. We'll find out.
What'd be really funny is if we find out later on this season that there's a Thanksgiving and or Christmas episode. We just haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
Anyway.
We'll have to keep an eye out for that. There's probably one that we can say is like the Thanksgiving episode, but we'll see what airs on that Thanksgiving weekend that's coming up in, I don't know, a month.
We'll try to remember. We'll try to remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you give this episode? What do you rate this one?
It's hard not to just give it an F, but I did like the setting. They did a good job with, like you're saying, it must have been a set from another show or movie at the time. They did a good job at that. I do like that the aliens afterwards were not humanoid at all. They were super weird. But the story was just hard to keep up with. It was really lame. So yeah, I'll probably give it... I was going to give it an F, but I'll do D-, I guess.
So I realized initially I gave this an F, which would have been the lowest grading I'd ever given an episode. But I remember not very recently, somewhat recently giving... It was the one with Lazarus and Lazarus. I think I gave that an F+. So
yeah.
I'm going to say this is a step above that, because I remember how much I absolutely hated that episode.
Yeah, that was a pretty bad one too.
So I'm giving this one, I'm agreeing with you, it's a D-, because at least there was an attempt at good special effects in this episode. Like, yeah. I almost started talking about the next episode, because I just watched that one too. But there was...
I can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah, the next episode's quite a bit better than this one. But they at least attempted, but the acting was so bad in this one by the Sylvia and Korob or whatever. I'm sorry if they were told to act like that, and I thought it was just all around very, very bad. A bad story, bad acting. The budget was obviously bad, and the special effects they did with what they could with the fog and the shadows and the sounds. They tried to really get that atmosphere for this Halloween episode. They tried really harder than I think they did with the Lazarus episode. I forget what that episode's called, and I don't really care what it was called. So D-.
Yeah. I agree. Do you have a moral of the story that you could extrapolate from this?
Oh yeah, my moral of the story is that holiday themed episodes are bad and Halloween episodes are the worst.
Yeah.
That's what I got from this episode.
That holiday special event themes or holiday themes just don't need to happen. Stick to what you normally write.
Yep.
And the fans are watching it because they like the show, not because you made one about Halloween.
Right, exactly.
It's not like you're getting the Halloween fans to come around and watch your Star Trek show for the first time. That's not happening. Yeah. So,
oh man.
That's rough.
Anyway, next week we are talking about season 2, episode 8, I Mud. So looking forward to Mud coming back.
Yes, that's a very tasteful and fun overacting that we get to see. I love it. I'm always a big fan of Harry Mudd, so it's gonna be good. We were just talking before we started recording too, how I liked watching this last episode because I realized after going to a Comic-Con recently, I was like, I can't cosplay a lot of people in Star Trek. Most people in Star Trek aren't fat like me, but Harry Mudd, I could pull off his look for sure. And I love his character. He's just hilarious and fun. So it's like, that'd be a good one to cosplay for sure.
Yeah, so join us next week when we talk about that one. If you have any questions or any discussions or want to rant about your most hated episode of Star Trek, we are on all the social media platforms. You can look us up on Twitter, Instagram. We're on Twitch. Join our Discord channel. Our Discord channel's been popping. We just have a bunch of nerds that are all hanging out, talking about different things. We talk about video games. I like to talk about pro wrestling a lot on there. So there's a lot of different niche conversations that we like to have on there. And if you enjoyed listening to us, please give us a review on iTunes. That really helps us out a lot. It's a quick and easy, a very free way of showing your support for the show. So we appreciate that. And until next time, Transporter Room, 2 to beam up.